สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ so this week I'm out of the country on a trip and therefore I did not have enough time to record a full normal length video but nonetheless I still had enough time to pre-record a short video and I think today's topic is still important to communicate and coincidentally it relates to last week's topic on arguments, how even if we manage to win an argument, get the other side to admit defeat, to admit that they were wrong, to comply with us, that victory will be very empty because we will have lost something far more valuable. That is, we would have lost their goodwill and they will feel resentment towards us. Therefore, if we understand human psychology a little bit better, then we will understand how to navigate disagreements and prevent them from turning into disputes. Because after all, we human beings, we all have a deep longing desire to feel important, to feel great, to be important, to be great, right? For this week's topic, I want to dive into that a bit more and use an example that, as a matter of fact, just happened earlier this evening. And this example, it is quite close to my heart personally because I see this thing happen quite a lot in my social circle, and I think that is something that we can all relate to. If not, we probably know somebody who can relate to this because perhaps they have had a similar experience. And this topic is the arguments and the disputes between parent and child, especially if that child is, still young or about to enter his or her teenage years. But it also applies to even adult childs, right? So the relationship dynamic between a parent and an adult child, fully grown child, that is quite toxic in some regard, or can be avoided. That negative arguments can be avoided. So first of all, of course it's normal to have arguments and disputes in family, right? In our households is a very normal thing. But the thing is this, arguments and disputes, if we're not careful, oftentimes they get developed into a communications habit, a communications pattern that sticks, and then that can cause a lot of damage and hurt over the long term for both sides, the parent also, and especially for the growth and the development of the child through his or her, childhood development, teenage years, and into adulthood. The example that just happened even earlier this evening for me was this. I was having dinner in a group, and of course it was in a public setting in a restaurant, and the mother of the child had brought her son along with her. And admittedly, this child is a very naughty boy, a difficult child. Of course, he starts to misbehave, he starts to be rude, say mean things, as kids sometimes do. And of course, this kid is a difficult one. And understandably, the mother is getting upset. The mother feels that she needs to take control of the situation and get the kid to behave, because after all, we're in a public setting, we're in a restaurant, we're having dinner, and there are other people involved, right? But as the parent gets upset, right, the kid still misbehaves. Then now she gets angry. Now she gets angry and now she yells. Okay, fine, that anger and that yelling could be okay, but the wordings that she used through her communication styles, through her communication patterns, through the communication habit that's been established between this parent and this child was one that is very harmful if we really look at it, from the larger perspective, from the bigger picture. Now, admittedly, in that moment of time, the parent about to say what she said probably thought to herself that was probably a wise thing to say or a witty thing to say or a smart thing to say to get the child, to get her son to self-reflect and stop that bad behavior. And of course, she may felt like she was out of options. So what else could she do? What did she say? She said things like this, like, why do you behave like this? Why can't you behave nice like the other kids? If you don't stop misbehaving like this, you know what? You can just go on and do this by yourself and be like this by yourself, and you can just go home by yourself, right? So, and also another big one I forgot is, why are you embarrassing yourself? You're just embarrassing yourself now. This is very embarrassing. Shut up, or something like that. You see? Okay, you can probably say that was harsh. Now, I made that example specifically a bit more harsh, but the concept's still the same. From the parent's perspective, again, she probably thought that she succeeded in getting the kid to stop. She probably thinks that, well, you know what, I'm the parent. The kid must understand that this is how I communicate. We've been living together for, this kid's 10 or whatever years old, right? But the key is this. From the child's perspective, that communications, right, the wordings, the verbal communications, and especially the non-verbal ones, body language, facial expression, tone of voice, eyesight, eye contact, was extremely judgmental. And from the kid's perspective, from the child's perspective, he read that as shaming him, right? The child reads this as outright shaming the child. Of course, this is a direct attack on the child's sense of self-importance, sense of pride, which is something that is so dear to, of course, a child, and especially at a sensitive development stage in his or her life, right? The child reads this as outright shame, outright judgment, and it's very hurtful, right? The thing is this. I think, of course, before I say this, I don't claim to talk about parenting skills. Of course, I'm not a parent, so I don't claim to be talking about parenting skills, but I just want to present this as an observation and from the perspective of communication skills, right? I think that one of the most important things is, as a family unit, as a parent, as mom and dad, we need to be able to provide an environment, right? Provide an environment for our child to feel emotionally and psychologically safe and secure with us, right? That they're not judged, they're not shamed, right? That we can provide protection for them psychologically and emotionally. Of course, the child is still growing, not mature enough and not old enough to have ways to process difficult emotional feelings with other people as adults would, for example, right? So if the mother is communicating this rough judgment, this yelling, raising the voice, these mean words, right? Even though she probably did not intend to be mean, right? But it is communicating that, like, look, I'm judging you, kid, and you're shameful, right? It's embarrassing for everybody else to see, and that I'm turning my back on you because I'm also judging you now. And if I'm the only person that you can look up to for protection and I'm turning my back on you, what does that mean? That means that this kid must be feeling that, he or she has nowhere to turn to for emotional protection and psychological protection. He or she must feel the worst feeling and the worst experience a child can feel, which is that they are unlovable and they are worthless. Again, they are shamed, they are unlovable, and they are worthless. This is literally one of the worst experiences that a child can have growing up, right? To feel these things. And of course, you can probably guess and probably see that this will have significant impacts on that child's development stages as he or she goes through childhood, through teenage years, and into adulthood. Now, the most tragic point of this whole entire situation is the mother raises her anger, trying to get the kid to stop. How does the kid respond? The kid responds with more anger, right? But you see, that anger is masking the fear. That anger is masking the child's fear and insecurity because, he or she just felt like the mom, the only protector, has just turned his or her back on me as a kid, right? And now I'm judged, I'm shamed, I have nowhere to turn to for emotional and psychological protection, right? So the kid is angry, reacts with anger because he cannot articulate what he is or she is feeling, but this is communicated on the level of feeling and emotion. So it has huge, enormous impact despite the fact that the kid cannot articulate what he's truly feeling. You see, this is the point. So number one, the kid's anger is masking fear and insecurity. Yet when the mom sees the kid getting angry, the mom gets more angry or tries to get the kid to stop even more because the mom or the parent reads this as what? As a challenge to the mom or dad's authority, as a challenge to the parent's authority, right? As an attack on the parent. So this obviously it's not gonna go anywhere. But for a person who's a child, a sensitive development stage in life, right? I think this is a topic that we need to talk about more, and we need to talk about, frankly and open-heartedly, because it's important. Because I think it's very, very, very unfortunate that a lot of these things happen in ways that we don't realize, right? It's really important to understand what is going on emotionally and psychologically in the child. And yet another tragedy in the situation is that this shows many of these cases seems to suggest a picture that the reason why the parent gets reactive quickly or gets angry or frustrated quickly, right? And understandably so, everybody has a hard day, having gone to work, etc., right? Understandable. But the reason why the parent gets upset quickly, gets angry quickly, and reacts like that is perhaps it shows that the mom or the dad, the parent, cares more about what other people are going to think about their own child rather than caring what the child is truly experiencing and feeling emotionally and psychologically, right? The parent is too worried about other people's judgment about the child and about them as a parent. So that's also fear and insecurity being masked as anger. But you see, I think we really need to explore this and really consider this for ourselves and really ask ourselves deep questions when it comes to these dynamics, right? And I see this happen all too often, so therefore it's close to my heart personally, because it's such a shame that that this has to be experienced by anybody. And if you are a parent, I don't mean this video as an attack on you in any way. It's just an observation, and I hope that it can provide some value to you. Of course, it's just my own observation. I'm not a parent myself, but I hope that you really consider this message. And if you are the child, right, who is now probably an adult watching this video, please, I know you never deserved any of this. But I want to propose the idea that I know it may hurt, and I know that that it's difficult. These things are very difficult to address. Even if you are an adult now, because it's been ingrained since you were young. It happened since you were young. But can you imagine finding some place in your heart to imagine either one day in the future or right now, giving some form of understanding and forgiveness to the mom or dad who had handled you, not as well as they could have, right? Because what I want to propose is this, we're all human beings, we're all flawed, and we're all only doing the best that we can only do and we only know how to do. We're always only doing the best that we know how, that we understand, right? That is, available to us in our current level of awareness and consciousness. So we're always only trying our best, even if it may not seem like so, and even if it may seem hurtful. So only, until we can address these dynamics and see that, even if we have been wronged or been mistreated before or felt so, but, we're all still humans, and we cannot truly address these sticking points, these emotional sticking points, right, unless we address them and forgive ourselves and forgive the people who have done us wrong. So I wanted to share this in today's video. Again, thank you very much for watching this. Thank you very much for hearing my message, and please really do consider this, whether or not you are the child who has gone through this before or you are the parent. I hope this video was valuable for you. Please like the video for me, and please share the video for me if you think this can get to somebody who may need to hear this message. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time when we do normal lengthy videos again. Please like my page if you're watching if you're watching KonPop on Facebook, or subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. That's it for now. Good luck to you. I'll see you next time. สวัสดีครับ